This is just a sample of the audiobook. To get the complete audiobook, access the link posted in the first comment.
Winston Leonard Spencer Churchill was born in a small ground-floor room, the nearest bedroom to the main entrance of Blenheim Palace in Oxfordshire, at 1:30 a.m. on Monday the 30th of November 1874. It was a worrying birth, as the baby was at least 6 weeks premature, and his mother, the beautiful American socialite Jenny Jerome, had suffered a fall a few days earlier. She had also been shaken by a pony cart the day before the birth, following which her labour pains started. In the event, there were no abnormalities, and the baby's father, Lord Randolph Churchill, the younger son of the 7th Duke of Marlborough, was soon describing him as wonderfully pretty, with dark eyes and hair, and very healthy. The hair soon went strawberry blonde, and great tresses of it from when he was 5 can be seen in the birth-room at the palace today. Thereafter Churchill was red-headed. The name Winston recalled both Sir Winston Churchill, the child's ancestor who had fought for King Charles I in the English Civil War, and Lord Randolph's elder brother, who had died aged 4. Leonard honoured the baby's maternal grandfather, a risk-taking American financier and railway owner, who had already made and lost 2 great fortunes on Wall Street. Spencer had been hyphenated with Churchill since 1817, the result of a marital alliance with the rich Spencer family of Althorpe, Northamptonshire, who at that time held the earldom of Sunderland, and were later to become the Earls Spencer. Proud of his Spencer forebears, he signed himself Winston S. Churchill, and in 1942 told an American trade unionist that, of course, his real name was Spencer-Churchill, and it is in this way that he is described, for example, in court circulars, when he goes to see the king. The child's paternal grandfather was John Winston Spencer Churchill, owner of Blenheim Palace, which has been described both as the English Versailles and as the greatest war memorial ever built. Named after the most glorious of the battles won by John Churchill, 1st Duke of Marlborough, in the War of the Spanish Succession in 1704, its magnificent structure, tapestries, busts, paintings, and furnishings commemorated a victory in a conflict that had saved Britain from domination by a European superpower, in this case the France of Louis XIV, a message that the young Winston did not fail to imbibe. "We have nothing to equal this," King George III admitted when he visited Blenheim Palace in 1786. "We shape our buildings," Winston Churchill was later to say, "and afterwards our buildings shape us." Although he never lived at Blenheim, he was profoundly influenced by the splendour of the palace's 500-foot frontage, its 7 acres of rooms, and its 2,700-acre estate. He absorbed its magnificence during the many holidays and weekends he stayed there with his cousins. The palace was, still is, pervaded with the spirit of the 1st Duke, the greatest soldier-statesman in British history, who, as Churchill was to describe him in his biography of his ancestor, was a duke in the days when dukes were dukes. For his late Victorian contemporaries, the young Winston Churchill's name conjured up 2 images: the splendour of the 1st Duke's military reputation and palace, of course, but also the adventurous career of Lord Randolph Churchill, the child's father. Lord Randolph had been elected a Member of Parliament 9 months before Churchill was born, and was one of the leaders of the Conservative Party from the child's 6th birthday onwards. He was controversial, mercurial, opportunistic, politically ruthless, a brilliant speaker both on public platforms and in the House of Commons, and was marked out as a future Prime Minister, as long as his inherent tendency to recklessness did not get the better of him. In politics he followed the precepts of the Conservative leader Benjamin Disraeli, which combined imperialism abroad with a progressive programme of social reform at home. Lord Randolph was to call his version Tory democracy, and it was to be imbibed in full by Winston. His slogan, "Trust the people," was to be used many times in his son's career. Although Lord Randolph was the son of a duke, he was not rich, at least relative to most of the rest of his class. As an aristocratic younger son in the era of primogeniture, he could not expect to inherit much from his father, and although the father of his American wife Jenny Jerome had been enormously rich in the recent past, he was once nicknamed the King of New York, he had seen massive reverses in the American stock market crash of 1873. Nevertheless, Leonard Jerome still lived in a house that covered an entire block on Madison Avenue and 26th Street, and which boasted extensive stabling and a full-size theatre. He had owned the land where the Jerome Park Reservoir is today, founded the American Jockey Club, and co-owned the New York Times. By the time of Jenny's wedding the year after the crash, however, Jerome could settle only £2,000 per annum on his beautiful daughter, the Duke of Marlborough contributing £1,200 per annum for his son. Along with the leasehold on the house at 48 Charles Street in Mayfair, courtesy of Jerome, that ought to have been enough for the couple to live upon comfortably, had they not both been notorious spendthrifts.